Tony, can you tell me how the war between the United States and Vietnam started?
Yes, Helena. The war between the United States and Vietnam began on August 2nd, 1964, with the Gulf of Tonkin incident.
Can you explain what the Gulf of Tonkin incident is, Tony?
Yes, Katie. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was an incident in which three torpedo boats belonging to the North Vietnamese Navy attacked the U.S. destroyer USS Maddox during an espionage operation in Gulf of Tonkin waters between Vietnam and China. How much damage did the United States incur in that battle? Mia?
Yes, Tony. As a result of this engagement, the U.S. Navy suffered minor damage to one destroyer and one attack aircraft, with no casualties. Tony, a few days later, did Vietnam attack again?
Yes, Mia, that's correct. 2 days later, on the 4th of August, it was reported that the USS Maddox and USS Turner Joy had been attacked again at the same location. This became the second Gulf of Tonkin incident, which gave the US justification for an attack on North Vietnam. On August 7th, the United States launched a massive bombing of North Vietnam in the name of retaliation. Hi, Leah. Conventionally, war starts with a declaration of war, but did the United States declare war at the time, Leah?
No, Tony. The U.S. proceeded without a declaration of war. At the time, the House of Representatives opposed the all-out war with Vietnam.
By the way, it is said that the second Gulf of Tonkin incident was fabricated by the US military. Is it correct, Katie?
Yes, that's correct, Tony. There were rumors of manipulation of the second Gulf of Tonkin incident. A declassified as National Security Agency report in 2005 documented that there were no actual torpedo boat attacks.
What was the reaction of the North Vietnamese government, Tony?
At the time, North Vietnam also emphatically denied the second attack on the Gulf of Tonkin on August 4th. The North Vietnamese side said there had been no such attack. President Johnson was found to have fabricated the incident to gain support for the Vietnam War in June 1971. The New York Times reported that the second Gulf of Tonkin incident had been fabricated by the United States. At that time, the United States did not expect the war to escalate into a large-scale ground battle until a year after it started. In fact, the battle between the two camps remained at the level of local warfare, and the damage to the North Vietnamese and American forces were not significant.
So how did the Vietnam War develop into a major war in which more than 50,000 Americans were killed, Tony?
Yes, Helena. In March 1965, Vietnam's Viet Cong bombed the U.S. Embassy in Saigon. Things changed dramatically with this bombing, which killed 218 people. By 1968, the United States had dropped 1 million tons of bombs on North Vietnam.
Wow, Tony. The United States dropped a massive bomb on North Vietnam. And the United States dispatched close to 550,000 troops.
Yes, Katie. The United States requested the dispatch of troops from Southeast Asia Treaty Organization countries. So, with the troops dispatched from Korea, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, Philippines, etc., the Allied forces were formed.
So did North Vietnam also ask for help from communist countries, Tony?
Yes, that's right, Mia. North Vietnam also requested aid from communist countries such as China and the Soviet Union in 1966. With enormous amounts of supplies and equipment, the Vietnam War became a long-term international war. As the Vietnam War continued to expand, a decisive event occurred. On January 30, 1968, during the Lunar New Year holiday in Vietnam, the North Vietnamese Army and the Viet Cong launched a surprise attack across South Vietnam. Simultaneous attacks were carried out in more than 100 cities across Vietnam, and the U.S. military headquarters embassy was also attacked.
Since the United States Embassy was attacked, did the United States then attack in retaliation, Tony?
Yes, that's right, Leah. Before long, the United States, with its mighty firepower, stopped the attack, and North Vietnamese and the Vietnam National Liberation Front suffered heavy losses and had to retreat.
Tony, what impact did the Lunar New Year offensive have on public opinion in the United States, where there was no doubt about America's victory in the war?
The images of the U.S. Embassy in Saigon being attacked and occupied by the Viet Cong was broadcast on live TV in the United States.
So the Americans who saw it on TV must have been very shocked, right, Tony?
Yes, that's right, Mia. General Westmoreland and President Lyndon B. Johnson, who had commanded the war until just a few months before, were confident of victory, saying the war was nearing an end.
Americans who believed such a declaration must have felt a severe psychological shock and profound sense of betrayal concerning the American leadership. Is it right, Tony?
Yes, that's right, Mia. So the American media poured out skepticism as to whether the United States had made the right decision to wage one war after another.
Then, public opinion in the United States deteriorated to the point that it resulted in the huge anti-war movement. Is that right, Tony?
Yes, that's right, Katie. In the end, the United States could not overcome the anti-war public opinion that was rising at home and abroad, and President Lyndon Johnson announced that he would not run for president in 1968 and demanded negotiation with North Vietnam. This initiated discussions on a peace agreement between North Vietnam and the United States on May 10, 1968, but without any meaningful results. Meanwhile, in the United States, Republican Richard Nixon won the presidential election and took office in January 1969.
With the advent of a new government, did the policy on the Vietnam War change as well, Tony?
Yes, it did, Rebecca. Shortly after his inauguration, President Nixon announced the plan for a phased withdrawal from South Vietnam, while at the same time announcing the Nixon Doctrine to significantly reduce the number of U.S. troops stationed in Asia. And on September 2nd of the same year, Ho Chi Minh, who had been the first president of North Vietnam and a hero of independence, died of a chronic disease. Even after the United States announced the phased withdrawal plan, the lukewarm battle continued, and the situation in Vietnam continued to remain unsettled and chaotic.
Did the armistice and peace negotiations continue between the two countries, Tony?
Yes, they did, Leah. Finally, the armistice negotiations between the United States and North Vietnam resumed in earnest in the summer of 1972, and a peace agreement was signed in Paris in January 1973, ending the long Vietnam War.
Hi, Tony. Was the peace agreement a deal not to go to war with each other?
Yes, that's right, Mia. After the peace treaty was signed, U.S. troops withdrew from South Vietnam completely, and South Vietnam, which the U.S. had left, became a mountain without an owner, left for the taking.
Tony, did South Vietnam become like a rabbit facing the tiger of North Vietnam? Was South Vietnam then a fat pig facing a lion? Is that right, Tony?
Yes, that's correct, Mia. With the complete withdrawal of U.S. forces, North Vietnam launched a massive offensive in 1975 and easily occupied Saigon, the capital of South Vietnam. The following year, when South and North Vietnam were unified into one nation state, the Socialist Republic of Vietnam was established.
Were the casualties in the Vietnam War huge, Tony?
Yes, of course, Rebecca, it's so huge. In the Vietnam War, 58,000 Americans were killed or went missing, and the number of seriously wounded soldiers alone reached 200,000. In addition, as the damage caused by the war was severe, including fatal after effects of defoliant and social maladjustment problems faced by soldiers returning from combat, the war awakened public awareness of the damage of war to many countries around the world.
Wasn't the use of defoliant by the US military against international law, Katie?
Defoliant is a chemical weapon and is not supposed to be used in war. However, the United States used this chemical weapon. Rebecca, I think the Americans didn't use it to kill people, but they tried to dry up the trees in the jungle. Mia, why did a superpower like the United States lose to Vietnam, a weaker country?
Although Vietnam was the weaker country, it had a natural weapon, which was the jungle. The Americans had to deal with the sweltering tropical climate, thick jungle forests, and numerous insects.
It is self-evident that the North Vietnamese soldiers endured these conditions much better than the Americans because it was the natural environment they had been raised in their entire lives. The United States suffered massive human and financial losses, was defeated and had to withdraw from Vietnam.
Thank you for watching the video, The War Between the United States and Vietnam, provided by History and Current Events. I'm Mia, Rebecca, Katie, Leah and Tony have contributed so far as narrators. Thank you.